This summer it seems like we'll be swapping the beaches of Tenerife for the shores of Tramore once again, as foreign travel is off the cards for the foreseeable.
And how bad? I'd love to get to Tramore. So here with the latest travel info is our consumer champion. Hello, Conor Pope. How are you?
I'm great. I'm not going to use the word vaccination no matter what you try and get me to do, okay?
This is why I love you.
All right.
Not going to happen.
Okay, but you might use the word staycation because Conor, Tony Holohan mentioned only in the last couple of days that international travel this year is not an option. So
well, that's what he said, Martin. And I think an awful lot of people who work in the industry that I've spoken to in the last couple of days just can't understand why he said it. Because, and Leo Varadkar said it the previous week when he said that travel over the summer of 2021 was probably off the table, and we mightn't even be able to get to travel up to Christmas of this year. But the thing is, the virus keeps changing all the time, and the nature of it and the level of transmission in the community. I mean, this time on the 3rd of December, everyone was talking about case numbers of around 600, 700, 500, whatever it might have been, and then on the 6th or 7th of January, it was 7,000. And then today it's around 1,000 or 1,100 or whatever it might be. So for people to say what we're going to be doing in 6 months or 7 months or 9 months' time, it seems kind of baffling. But yet that's what the public health officials and the government are saying. They're kind of saying, forget about international travel from a leisure perspective for the next 8 or 9 months. And that has caused an awful lot of disquiet in the industry, understandably so, but it's also caused a huge amount of depression for a lot of Irish people. And I use the word depression not in the medical sense, obviously. And the reality is that there's around 500,000 people or 400,000 people who had holidays booked in the summer of 2020, who rolled them over to the summer of 2021, and now they're being faced with either having to roll them over again or just to forget about them. And, you know, it is very, very upsetting for people. And by the way, when I say people, I refer to myself, because I booked my holiday in October 2019 for 2020, and then I thought at least I'll be able to go in 2021, and now I might be squeezing myself back into that ill-fitting wetsuit come the summertime and going swimming in the freezing Irish water again.
But you see, the thing, I think for an awful lot of people, I know certainly I was there going, there's no way I'm going to get to go on holiday this year. Some people didn't think it was going to happen. Some people were hopeful that it would happen. So now I think we're all just hoping that we're going to get to travel between counties. Is that something that we can do?
Well, this is the whole thing. I mean, right now we're in level 5, as all your viewers will know, and that means that we can't travel beyond 5 kilometers or more than 5 kilometers from our home. If it goes down to level 4 and 3, well, then we might be able to travel within our county, and then it might go down to level 2, and then we might be able to travel across the whole country. But, you know, we're a very, very, very long way away from being told that international travel is okay. And the government is putting all of these obstacles or roadblocks in the way of international travel because they're trying to stop it. So, for instance, up till quite recently, there was no penalty for taking an overseas holiday, whereas now you can be fined €500 or more than that if you're going on an unnecessary journey to Dublin Airport. So the whole thing is changing, and it keeps changing week by week.
Now, I know that we're in the deep red zone. This is about international travel, but you mentioned there that you would put your own holiday off until 2021. And Michael OLeary was talking this week saying that people had received all of their refunds who wanted them from the COVID-related travel last year. Is this true?
It's absolute nonsense. And Michael OLeary knows it's absolute nonsense, because I have had dozens and dozens of readers of the Irish Times and viewers of your programme contacting me in recent days to say, hang on a second, we haven't got our refunds yet. So that's clearly not true. And then the Travel Agents Association, Pat Dawson, who's the chief executive, told me that there's around €20 million owed by Ryanair to people as a result of cancelled flights last year. And not only did Michael OLeary say that everyone had been given refunds, he actually suggested that people who were saying on social media that they hadn't got refunds were kind of like Donald Trump claiming he'd won the US presidential election. So he's calling these people who are contacting me liars, and he's saying that he's given all these refunds when actually that isn't the case.
But like you said, it's impacting Irish travel agents because, of course, people are being passed back to the travel agent and told that's where your contract started. It's not actually with us. So it's just a vicious circle.
It is, and it's terrible. I've got huge sympathy for the travel agents because they're probably the industry that has been hardest hit by the pandemic. I know people will point to the pubs and that terrible term, the wet pubs, but at least the wet pubs, they were able to close last March, effectively mothball their businesses, and then just wait until they could reopen. The travel agents have had no income in 2020. They're not likely to have much income in 2021, and a lot of the income they earned in 2019, they're having to refund to people because they booked holidays for the upcoming season, the 2020 season. So they've been kind of left hanging by the government, really, and it's very, very hard for them. And one of the interesting things that I think is going to come out of this whole crisis, and it is a huge crisis, is that probably people are going to start thinking to themselves, well, at least if I go with a travel agent or a tour operator, be it whoever it might be, at least you've got rights. When you book independently through one of these massive, big multinational websites, it's very hard to get redress, and a lot of people are complaining about that.
So, people are still trying to get their refunds. They still just have to go through the process.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Okay.
And people are entitled to those refunds, because if a flight was cancelled as a result of COVID-19, and you had a ticket for that flight, then you're legally entitled to a refund. And that's the law. That's under EU Directive Flight 261. But the difficulty is it's very hard to police that law, because the only avenue people can travel down if they haven't got a refund with any airline, and it's not just Ryanair, because lots of airlines have been playing this game for the last nearly a year. They can go to the Commission for Aviation Regulation, but that can be very difficult, and it can be a process that takes a lot of time, and there hasn't been much success for many people.
Now, Conor, the one thing that an awful lot of us are clinging to is the hope of a vaccine. Is there a chance that will we see Ibiza overrun with the over 65s from Ireland this year if they've had their vaccine and they've got proof of it? Could it happen that they could travel?
Well, that might happen. And, I think an awful lot of the time people are talking about vaccination passports and, that's terrible. But, the vaccination passport exists already in huge parts of Africa for yellow fever. You can't travel to parts of West Africa unless you have a piece of paper in your hand saying, I have been vaccinated against yellow fever. So this vaccination passport type system is implemented in many other countries. And if it happens in this country, and people are allowed to go on cruises if they have a vaccination, well, that might open up the industry, and it might open up the world. There's already some countries that are doing it. For instance, Iceland is rolling out a system whereby it will welcome people who have proof of vaccinations. A lot of cruise companies are saying, well, you can only book a cruise if you've had a vaccination against COVID-19. So it is going to be a feature of the sector in the next year or so, and it might just be something that people have to live with.
So it would be called a what?
Well, I'm going to call it a vaccination passport. Now, I appreciate that it's a little bit longer than your word for it, but I just can't bring myself to say it.
Vaccination, baby. We'll just call it a holiday with the vaccination. Conor Pope, as always, from the Irish Times, thank you so much for talking to us.